All right, we're back live. We will tone down this music. All right, well, we can have a little bit of music in the background. That's allowed for them. That should be just barely audible. All right. Well, anyways, welcome. Hi, we are back. Thanks for hanging with us. Um, uh, yeah, that's. Do we want to jump over to the general chat if people want to? Feel free to go over there. I'm gonna drag myself over to the general voice chat. So now I'm over there. You guys can follow. There you go. Woo! We are way over there. Well, anyways, I'm.
What is this foreign place I've never been to?
Let's see. So I'm going to be cracking open a Loon Juice. It is a extra juicy hard cider uh, from Minnesota. The loon is our state bird. Um, it is what it is.
I'm gonna go grab one. I'll be right back.
All right.
I mean, we have the Canadian goose, so I think a loon beats the goose.
A loon is a crazy person, isn't it?
Yeah, they're loony.
Exactly.
This is also a Canadian dollar.
Oh, the loon. Ah.
So, guys, if you're here, you want to chat, come into the general on the Minor League Fights and Dislikes Discord. Talk to us, ask us questions in person. Let's just have fun and chat.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just going to just say random stuff the entire night. Like how Derek should be here. But unfortunately, he couldn't because of family things. We wish him the best in that, but I really want to see his outfit to come or what he's wearing soon enough. What he has to do for the bet.
That's what why you were asking if he was gonna be here or not.
Well, I don't know. I don't think he was gonna do it tonight, but it would have been hilarious if he did.
Hey, Twin Screw, how are you tonight? Good to see you here. We're just here hanging out.
I got a Angry Orchard Tropical. Never heard of it before. It was actually pretty good.
Nice. They have like a mango version of this loon juice that I'm not that big of a mango person, but it's pretty tasty as well. We are doing good. We're just hanging out, having a few drinks, shooting the shit. I can say that now because we're in After Dark.
So I have a question for you, Axel. So, it was brought up with Switch. Is Ashley retiring in 2 years?
That's a good question. I thought she was. There was rumor that this last offseason between 18 and 19 that she might be stepping away from the field. Again, just she's been there for a long time doing her thing, and now that she's even co-owner, you never know if she might be stepping away. You never know exactly, but it's hard to step away when you've got your player, and she's been. I don't know how many years, but I think at least 2 plus 3 years that she's had her player. Maybe if they win the championship, that might be the perfect time to step away. You never know. But I know that they're also seeking general manager over there. They've been so Eddie, Ashley, and DJ Moses have been sort of the three of them doing like the GM type of management stuff. Oh yes. So they're looking for a GM out there, and you never know. Maybe that's something that she might co-owner and do and be a GM and step down as a player. I don't know.
Actually, also is the director of compliance as of right
Oh
now.
yes, so that's a lot of stuff on her plate, and she does her 3 or 4 hour shows now. they've been getting bigger and longer since I've been here. So I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm sure it's hard to step away from being a player. I know. I'm only.
We'll just ask Eddie that.
Yeah, he's been his player for a while, and I know there's every year in the owners' meetings and things, the idea of forced player retirement comes up, and I'm not sure where exactly I stand on that. Because I'm only a few seasons in. That was my third pro season. And I can even imagine sort of stepping away from my player, because that's part of the fun, part of why I joined. It wasn't to be a straight up owner. It was that's part of it. That's, the other part is being a player and seeing my player out there on the field. I can't, it's hard to unmarry the two. So yeah.
Yep, I agree. I think half the fun would be playing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And not all owners are coaches. I did coaching this last season, but I don't know where we stand with that, coming into the future. It takes a lot out of me, like during the season, dozens of hours a week and time away from the family, and squeezing it in between work meetings sometimes to get a sim up and running and things. But
there was a lot of midnight sims going on.
Oh, 3 a.m. I was up, I think Ben Jackson we were talking, like he was so he worked on doing a lot of our scouting the last few weeks, and had helped with some scheming and things. Great help. But he's like, so often he would be working from like 11 to like 3 a.m. and he'd send me like his scouting report or some, he was testing offensive plays and things, and he was not expecting responses. And I'm like, I'm still up. Hello. Hey, how are you doing? 3:30 a.m. So Ty asks, how was my first season as an owner? It was fun. I feel like I had the most fun in June. And then all the way up to like our first win was great in Las Vegas. It was great to be there at the convention to see everybody else and be part of that energy. So if you all get a chance to do that next summer, I wholeheartedly say go do it. That is huge. And it was then after our win, and then coming up on our first loss in week 2 against Sioux Falls, all of a sudden I felt this stuff is really real. Like my team of 22 other players are depending on me to do what, the coaching side of things sort of took over. And it was really a struggle to, it was a lot of weight on the shoulders, a lot of anxiety inducing, like trying to like show that, hey, I'm putting in the effort. I'm trying. It is not for lack of effort that we might lose or something, but it's tough, and that's when things got a little more tough.
I can tell for a fact that it was like that because I didn't make it any easier on Axel, because around week 3 or week 4, I said, Axel, we need to figure this out. Things aren't going exactly to plan. We need to go. And I'm not very I'm an honest person. I'm not gonna sugarcoat things, I guess is the best way to say it. And we had I would like to say we had our first little fight as a relationship, right?
Yeah, we did.
Little tip.
Sort of disagreement over DM, and like I'm like, trying to get clear on what each other was saying, and that was like in preparation for Tulsa, because we lost against London, and then I know you were winning against Tulsa was a big thing. Wanting to win against Tulsa was a big thing for you, and yeah, so it was tough, but we got through it, even though we're stronger because of it.
And the team showed too, right? At the end, the second half of the season, we really put it to the teams that were at the top.
Yeah, that whole last stretch was unexpected and surreal. And I'm like, well, let's go on top. I don't, to me, that was like winning the championship to beat both Baltimore and DC through that. So Eddie asked, do you have a hand in the offensive defensive side of the playbook now? Yeah, so Johnny Bravo was doing our defense, as we started, in preparation for week 1, all the way up through week 9. He reached out and said, I just don't have time to do that. So that was heading into our week 10 game against Indy. So I took that on. So both offense and defense week 10, and then blessing Ben Jackson's like, hey, I'm looking for a team to help out, do some scouting and help see them through to the end. And so he came on and gave us a huge boost in scouting reports and information and testing, and did a huge amount of stuff for us there, so that we could game plan really nicely for Baltimore, DC, and CHS and just sort of get us into that playoff position. So it was sort of all hands on deck. I was learning how to defend. Like, you know, I've simmed enough that I've seen enough defenses to start to see some things, but I didn't know a lot of the details, and I'm not that good at. I need a lot of practice in scouting defenses, but I'm now coming through that 4 or 5 game stretch so much more confident in my defensive coordinating skills. So, anyways, now I got to read through.
I have a question for you, Axel.
Yeah.
So obviously, Minnesota Legend. Were there any, I don't know, like team ideas that like didn't make your list where you got to the Minnesota Legend? Was there other ones that you thought of first?
Yes, there was. Let me see if I can.
There's a Google Doc of that, ain't there, somewhere?
Yes. So it originally, the Minnesota Legend originated with the Minnesota Freeze, and it was going to use the gargoyle sort of as the like, what is it? The embodiment of coldness, right? Of the Minnesota Freeze, using blues and like a neon green and some like whites and things to play with that. And so that was where it first started late January, early February, was as a Minnesota Freeze. And then I was playing with some other things. Minnesota Sasquatches came up as an option, but I didn't really like that. Maybe it was Squatches. Played with the different color things, and then joined up with BJ Loveless at that point. He and I had known of each other, but there's a lot of synergy. He lived for a long time in Minnesota. I actually right now live in a smallish town, like third tier suburb of the Twin Cities, where his nephew and I think either his sister or brother live. And he went to school in Winona in Minnesota here. So there's a lot of Minnesota connections with him. It was great. And we were playing with different things, and like, the Minnesota like Legend, almost like the Nemesis or something that like the Minnesota or the Florida Storm, like there's just like something that's easier, rolls off the tongue better. We did in our submission for our team, lots of people were like, well, why aren't you the Legends? I'm like, well, it's about the one legend of the Sasquatch in Minnesota. So we just kept the Minnesota Legend to refer to that. But yeah.
And I know when me and Axel talked, because we talked a bit about it too when we had our chances and when we had time. We were talking about like jersey ideas, and we were proposing like, why don't we just make the jersey based on all mythical creatures? But no, we want to build about the Sasquatch itself and go from there. So I think that's where we're really honed in for everybody that we're going to work on this and make it about the actual legend of Minnesota.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, there's some footage and things about the mythical legend of the Sasquatch just like 15 miles from where I live and things. So
I used to watch those shows all the time where the guy's like, it was that guy with like the, I don't know, it was like a frizzy hair, and he's like, oh, that sounds a bit squatchy.
Yep. Always like doing the big Squatch howls in it. I think it was like Finding Bigfoot or something like that.
I'm so afraid to call it the Sasquatch, so I'm going to say Yeti, because that's the Canadian term up here, is the Yeti. So I'm going to continually mix it up all the time.
Okay, so Coco has a question. If the league does decide to expand rosters past the 1 to 2 spots that are currently discussed, where do you think we could see teams going outside of the typical DT2 wide receiver 4? I think maybe, I think the easiest spot for me to think about would be the maybe running back 2, and be able to have both a power back and a finesse back. Back there might be something, or get a fifth, do a fifth wide receiver, or go to the 3-4 defense. I think that's interesting because, I mean, that's the thing is keeping people from running, 3-4 is that lack of that second inside linebacker. But they, depending on what you do, they might not get much time. But again, that's 2 ways maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Ron Haynes. Hey, Ron, how are you? How did coaching in the minors prep you for the pro side, especially for a new franchise team? So, yeah, my first season in Madison was season 4. I joined the team as an assistant offensive coach, focused there, specifically on offense, and learned a lot more about playbook, like the logistics of how the playbook gets created, and testing of plays, or like the using the practice feature in the game to test game or plays over and over and over again. Working with both Jacob Clear and Coco over there in how the AI, like trying to get deep into how the AI plays calls plays. I'm not drinking that much, I swear. And that kind of thing in that first season. And I had the great opportunity. I raised my hand and said, "Hey, I wanted to give this a shot for the All-Star game last December, at the end of that season, to be the offensive coordinator for the West at the time, because I had joined San Diego at the time. And so I was paired up with Charles Doherty, which, he did the defense, I did the offense, but he was another good, even just in the week and a half that I was working with him side by side, I learned a lot from his perspective, how he went about scheming and planning and working on that. And then I went over to at San Diego, worked underneath Liam Hammer there, and Liam learned from a variety of people: Shan, Gerald, Charles, and so I learned a lot from him, from his distilling down from those masters as well. So and then moved over as more of the official offensive coordinator at Madison, and worked a little bit more closely, even more closely now that Jacob Clear was over at Annapolis at the time. Just diving even further deeper into all of that. So it's just, again, trial by fire. It's just diving in, and I'm one thing you have to know is that as you're trying so much, I've been told many things, and sometimes you just have to try it out for yourself to see how it works, and in order to believe it. So I would say, try to get the game, get the emulator up and running, play some games, see how it works, that kind of thing, explore all of that. So, Eddie, I'd love a little short course this off season if you'd be willing to. I could send you a Minnesota jersey. I don't know, as a return for that.
Those hoodies look nice.
Yeah, they are. I've been sporting. I haven't. Now that the season's over, I think I'm going to be getting, going full bore into getting a lot of the different apparel, especially for the kids, for my kids, having it, because they're excited. My son was like telling his friends at his high school, he's like, "My dad owns a football team." He's pretty pumped about that. So that's pretty cool.
I really wanted to get one of those esports jerseys still. So that's still in the back of my mind the entire time.
Yep. I have yours from your Tulsa time.
You do.
I ended up buying that. The sizing I got was wrong for me, but
that doesn't matter. The fact that you went out your way to buy your friend a jersey so you can hang up next to your own, that you didn't even need to, like that just shows how good of a friend you are to begin with.
It was on sale. What could I say? It was nice. It was our in remembrance of our rookie time together. So it's capturing that.
How much I was complaining about the fact that I didn't think I was getting drafted that season.
Axel, did you buy a sticker?
I haven't yet. No, I haven't. And for those that have spread shops right now, today through Sunday, go out and buy stuff from them, because it is 20% off. Out there, if your team that you would like has a spread shop, go get some stuff. So definitely, no matter what team, if it's Minnesota, great. If it's Arizona, go get a hat, the Eddie Gage 27 Scorpion hat or something.
Famous plug: you can still get a tie-dye Daniel Wright Legend T-shirt there anytime you want.
There you go. But yours will always be special. They had a problem with me putting the Canadian red maple leaf on the logo. It was rejected, and I had to redesign, at least just remove that, but not before Daniel got his first order. So he's got the exclusive one that has the red maple leaf on it.
Yeah, 1 of 1.
It's like an error card. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, like I was saying, did I enjoy the ownership? I did. And like I said, in May and June, and building up the brand, and in making decisions of how we wanted our team to be put together, and things like that. They might have to enter a promo code. I could pop that. I downloaded the little GIF thing. Oh no, I think it just says. I think at the top of there might just be a banner that says that they are there, or there might be a promo code as part of it. The GIF that I have doesn't say the promo code, so it just might be a default thing. But I got an email about it from them, so that might be whatever email you use to sign up. In there through Sunday. Yep, I think it's through Sunday, the 2nd through.
Sounds
Sunday,
like Eddie might go shopping.
Sunday, November 6th. So
if you two couldn't, if there was like a poll and you two couldn't pick your own teams, what name / logo design do you think is the best?
Oh, out of the 28, I guess not the 27 teams that are left. I have always been a fan of Las Vegas's, because I love some of the bright colors that they use on the pinks and the purples and the bright yellows and things. I really early on when I first started, I was doing some graphics both for John Bond and Slyn Shady when he was there. And I had done some things with like playing with like the reflection of like neon colors and neon signs, which is very, and like helmet stickers that were in like the shape of like the spades and the clubs. So again, playing with that Las Vegas theme. I like that their branding there. So
mine is a completely weird answer. I like the Atlanta Swarm only because it reminds me of the old New Orleans Hornets NBA logo. So that's what I kind of. That
was like the jacket everyone would buy.
Yeah, exactly.
I do like the. It was funny. So I messaged Axel pretty early on because I liked the logo and I liked the color of the teams and other the uniforms. And I told him, I says, I know this is Minnesota. I'm from New England. It's like the only other cold team, so it felt appropriate. So I like that, and then I also like the Nemesis. I love their logo and their colors. So
I appreciate it. Let's see.
I got another question for you.
All right.
What do you think is the most important thing to know before owning a team?
Important thing to know. I think it's just getting, I think networking. One thing that both, so again, I was at San Diego, it was early mid-season last season when I was toying with this. I wanted to be fully upfront with Liam and Optimus Klein, and brought it to them, and like they were like cool, and Optimus was like, best advice I could give you is go and reach out to each of the owners, get to know the owners. So that was one thing that I did. Reached out to Gerald, had a good conversation with him. Reached out to TJ and T-Pat over at Baltimore. Trying to get to know who these people are that I would be rubbing shoulders with, and getting my name, my interests, and it's not about trying to sell them. I don't like the idea of. I'm not a big like seller kind of person. I don't want to schmooze. I just want to be myself and let who I am, lead the way. So that was the biggest thing, is trying to, still having like the plan or goal of creating Minnesota being a very learning centered and being, a stepping stone to someone else's success. Like, oh, you want to learn how to defensive coordinate. You want to learn how to scout. You want to be part of something bigger. Come over here. We'll help teach you, give you opportunities that you might not have elsewhere to get involved into the front office. To, Jason France came over. He was interested in in GMing. So he has that under now some tutelage from BJ, who has a very well experienced GM. We had Juan Mississippi wanted to come over and learn how to defensive coordinate. We were trying to give him some opportunities. He didn't have the time to invest in it, but that is still on the table, right? And for next season and things, or in off season. So it's really about trying to provide that places that we're the stepping stone for someone else's success, whether that's at Minnesota or somewhere else. And I feel that would be a testament to the team to know that we've got starting coordinators or future owners out in there because they came through Minnesota as that spot. So, thanks, Coco. I appreciate that. Andy's a pretty good person. I enjoyed watching his speed runs in Mario Kart a couple times.
So actually, with one can in you, are you insulted that Eddie didn't vote for your expansion team?
Wait, what?
With one can of alcohol, it appears Eddie didn't vote for your expansion team. Do you want to get into that?
What? Oh, I need to drink my sorrows away now. No, I'm surprised. I figured I'm like I don't think we were one that wasn't voted on by him. I know he's been a big advocate. That was also before he knew that we had both Max Knight and Mark Mello. So that might have changed his voting if he'd known that, perhaps.
He said he was kidding.
Okay. Yeah, and it was, that was one thing that really blew me away was the support that we had, and I honestly I feel like it was very. I tried going it alone to begin with, and it was TJ that's like, hey, you should maybe team up with somebody that might have been here a little bit longer, and he mentioned BJ as having been one that submitted a team proposal in the past. I think that was around like season 14 or 15 and such. So that's when that was the connection that what caused that connection, which is great. So so yeah, now I'm starting to ramble.
Yeah, it's okay. That's what this is for.
I guess so.
Yeah. I wish we could see the failed bids. I'd like to see if there's some really bad ones.
So after being successfully voted in and being on the owners, we did have access to them, and there were some that were, just ill prepared. I guess, and I think there was 10 or 11 bids, which was huge. I think that was really great to see that many interested parties, and they ran the spectrum in there, and I think there are some that just didn't quite have. Again, both you got to have like the alignment of stars kind of thing. You've got to have solid branding, be able to discuss the value of your branding, what you want your team to be, sort of building your brand, your identity. Having some sort of coaching aspect is huge because, again, God forbid that. So say we were planning on bringing coaches in, right? If then they decide to leave, what are you going to, you can't find coaches, who's going to coach? So having an owner that can step in and do that is huge. That means that you're going to be competitive no matter who you bring in to the team to coach. And then it's, I think, longevity. How much are they ones that are going to come in for a year or two and then I'm bored, I'm going to leave? So I think that's where some of that longevity and trustworthiness kind of thing comes in. How are they in developing the community? Are they going to be a good partner with other owners? Are they going to be able to, or are they coming in and are going to be divisive in different ways? So there's a lot of different aspects, and each owner has different priorities, and so that's what they vote on. But that's the value of having that be more of a voted upon thing. So
I was asking all the questions. I can actually answer a bit of this one. If you don't mind. When you all start building your roster for the Legends, did you start with a style of play and scheme to fit, or just simply acquire the highest level of talent you could? When we first decided to create the team, and I had a small help with this. I'm going to say a very small part, because I was the one that told him about France, how to get France in as a GM, because I knew France was a really good person, really wanted to take that next step, and he couldn't in Tulsa at the time, so I told him to come on over to Legends of Game Pro. But really, what Axel and BJ did to start with was networking. The people that they trust in, the people that are friends with them, they want to bring in a team because we want a team that can last. We don't want a team that goes away halfway through the season or in other seasons decides to test for UC. We want the good knit groups of people that will stay with us that we can build a culture around. And that was what friendships are. That's the things we make. Cody Griffin, we played in minor leagues with. Really good friends with us. Really good friends with BJ. Saw that BJ was taking the team over from Queen City going to Minnesota. Really wanted to be a part of it. John Reno was another player that we played with in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
Kept a connection with through minor league fights and insights. Derek recently of last season for minor league fights and insights while doing this show. We tried to build the connections first to get our friends or get people that we know will stay and make a good culture. And I think we really hit that part of the park. Now, when it comes to higher level talent in other positions, Axel can talk more about that one.
Sure. No, I wanted to form a team offensively to do more of the, for lack of a better word, like dink and dunk kind of thing. It may not be the showboating that San Diego is, and it may not be the run heavy that maybe LSG might be, with the power run and things. So it was really trying to find something that was unstoppable and can simply move down the field and score points. It didn't quite happen that way, in our games. Many of the games, like let's say it's a tale of two halves. The first half we could move down the field, and then the AI momentum switch shift happened or something, and we just couldn't do anything the second half. But really, that was the type of play that we wanted, which is why we went with two tight ends. We were on the fence of getting an offensive lineman. They ended up going through. We ended up getting our fourth wide receiver, which I think is great, especially for like some of the 90 all slants or some of the bigger quad things, to have a fourth wide receiver out there that's contracted, that can really help move that ball when you need to, go 10 plus, 15 plus yards if needed. Was huge as well. I wanted to make sure that we had, all the way through our dime backs back there, really valuable. Sure, many teams do look at doing, the four cornerbacks because you do have those fast wide receiver 3 and 4 in the slots now. But so far, our backup Tiga Clay and Rick Evans have been able to keep pace with that back there, but also aid even more so in some of the run stopping abilities too. So yeah, I was simming and game planning and stuff since early April, which was a whole month before we even were told we had a team. So even before we had the team, we were roster building, as soon as we got our submission in, and just crossing our fingers that we would get it. So we knew we were shared, when the voting was taking place. We did know like a week and a half or so before the big announcement that we did get it, but we were sworn to secrecy, so we couldn't share any of that information until the announcement. So we were really good with that. It was hard to keep that tight-lipped, but just we were moving forward as if we did, and we ended up getting it. So that was all good. So
yeah, we really wanted to have an experience that people would come from the minor leagues and like, oh, this fits right into what the minor leagues do. We got that culture. We got those people that are talking all the time in our chats, just having fun. On game day, we go and voice and talk all the time, scream. I might curse a bit, but who knows?
And now during like off season too, like we're playing as a Gloomhaven. We're historically Daniel and I have played some D&D together, so we might do some of that during the off season or some other things.
We had some board game nights as well.
Yep, playing Ticket to Ride and things. Or what was some of the other? What's the house one where the house, multiple options in it.
Oh, Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
That's the one too. Yep. And then this last week, many of us have downloaded Modern Warfare 2, and we'll be playing some of that together. So again, what is it? A family that plays together stays together, kind of thing. So I think we're really wanting to have a lot of fun in the off season as much as we do on the field. So yeah,
graphics on that look really good.
Yeah, it's been I downloaded it. Took almost a day and a half to get that thing downloaded, but and then as soon as it was ready, then the UI update happened and I had to download that too. It's like, oh gosh. But yeah, it's
Well,
been
funny
fun.
story about that. So I have Banks's PS4. I did for the longest while he was in the transition of moving to his new place. He comes by this week or the weekend saying, "I need the PS4. These guys are talking about Modern Warfare 2 so much. I think I'm gonna buy it." I'm like, "Okay, you go ahead. You spend the $80 so you can play with the guys now."
I'm excited because I historically have been a FPS first person shooter fan. I've been doing that since early days of some of the COD stuff, and so I'm excited. I do not have many friends on PS at Plus or whatever, and so I'm excited to be able to myself play with people that I know now, and instead of just random lobbies or whatever. So
Yeah, the last time I played COD was Xbox 360 Modern Warfare 2. That's how long ago it's been for me. So I'm not really a big first person shooter. Who knows? I might spend some money to get on the PC so I play with you guys too, but we'll see how that goes with my bank account.
Is it cross-platform?
it
People
is.
saying it is, yeah.
Yep, I had that same question because if others are on Xbox and I'm on PS, like is I don't want to buy it only to not not be able to play with them. And I did notice that it had like the different console or PC logos next to people that were in the lobby. I could see that. Destiny was a big thing back in 2016, 17. Destiny 2, maybe even 2, with your fire something. Played just a little bit of that, but
Yeah, I like the idea of FPS. I'm just not that good at it. I played Overwatch for a while, and I like
Hmm.
that because I Junkrat, and you don't really have to be that good at FPS to play Junkrat. So he just throws bombs around.
Thanks, Eddie, for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're just hanging out. Yeah. Yeah. So, Nicholas, you do okay. So, if I remember right, some of the chat things that I've seen and other things, there's like you've mentioned like working on Excel and other things. Is that something you do for your day job?
Yeah, I basically manage a couple 401k plans, a retirement plan. So I'm always running reports, and I use Excel a lot. So
Gotcha.
do a lot of if functions and just everything.
Cool. It's something that I've been learning. So I've been using more Google Sheets than Excel itself, but trying to get more into the formulas and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, once you learn some like pivot tables and all that stuff, once you learn it, it's kind of fun because you can do some weird stuff with it.
yeah, trying to get some
And
extra
especially
data
just
out.
yeah, in what I do, I mean, you could have an Excel sheet with like 10,000 lines, so you better know how to sort and pull things out of that,
Yep.
or you'll be lost for days. And then I'm a PC guy. I do have the newest Xbox, but I only bought that to play Madden. Besides, so I spend like hundreds of dollars to play one game, and then I have my PC.
Awesome. That's the way to do it, though. I mean, if it brings you joy, that's the thing. And the resale value, I mean, it's still it's still worth that. My friend just bought PS5 and it was like $600 or something like that, 700. I was like amazed at how the price of it, just because of. Also, I heard that he was saying that PlayStation had bumped up the price an extra $100 or something like that because they're like there's new stuff in it, there's new technology in it or something like that. But I don't know. I bought mine. So here's the story. My wife and I, we would go to this dive bar, and it literally was called the dive bar, and they had competitions for why am I blanking on it? Cards Against Humanity. So we'd go from table to table, and the winner would then go to the larger table and play, and the winner would win things. You might win something as small as a free drink or two, or some T-shirts, or some glassware, or other things. The one time that I actually won the whole thing, I won 3 tickets to a thing called WeFest, which is a big country like outdoor 3-day festival thing. So it was tickets to that, and I was able to, because I'm not a big country fan, and we didn't really have like, oh, let's go. We didn't really have the interest in attending, so I sold them online for $100 each. So $300 is what I ended up taking, and I was able to take that and buy my PS4 back in 2016. So that's what I was able to. It was a fun little story. So I guess you could say I'm a competitive Cards Against Humanity player.
Nice. Yeah, I've always had PlayStations, and then I just could not get one. So I found an Xbox, so I ended up buying the Xbox. And I said, well, it kind of makes sense because I'm a PC guy. So basically, even though I never had an Xbox, I have Xbox controllers everywhere because I use them for some games on the PC. So it wasn't that hard of a transition, but it made me sad because I've had PlayStation since the beginning, but I was like, it's not my fault. They won't sell me one.
Exactly. I mean, they're scarce.
I was a Nintendo guy growing up, so people loved Nintendo 64. Mario Party 2 was my jam. I always loved the Mario parties. Then I got into the PlayStation, the first PlayStation Final Fantasies. Got into that, love it. I transitioned out of all that. I'm more of a PC gamer now than I ever was compared to any other consoles. And because of Rocket League, funny enough, made me want to buy my first gaming computer, and I've never got off it since. I got over 1,500 hours in Rocket League alone.
Wow.
Which is weird because don't you use a controller for Rocket League?
You do, which is so weird, right? But at the time, Rocket League wasn't on the consoles. They switched onto the consoles afterwards.
That was actually, I don't know if you guys know this, that was ripped off from another game. I forgot the name of it, but it came out maybe 10 years before that, so it wasn't really ready.
No, it was the same company, but it was a different game. Yeah, I know exactly.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of funny.
I remember I got for my birthday, I think it was my 12th or I think it was my 12th birthday, 1992. I got the Super Nintendo system with the included cassette or cartridge of Mario Kart. So the very first, and we played that a ton growing up. So yeah, I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, I feel I was on the Nintendo side versus Sega. I never had a Sega. I was never really that interested in it. There was like a Genesis or something like that. It was pretty cool, technology wise, back in the mid '90s. And then I remember in high school, we went into the auditorium with the big screen projector, hooked up our N64, and we're playing GoldenEye there on the giant big screen projector. It was pretty fun. What did I think of that?
I still remember. I'm kind of old enough that in computer class we used to hook up because you couldn't. We had the direct connect the computers. I don't even remember how we direct connected them, and we would play Warcraft. So it'd be 4 or 5 players. That was fun.
Awesome. Ty had a good question I had asked TJ too.
Flex Squad.
Yeah, about the list. I'm scrolling up in the SFLM.
Oh, the Flex Squad list?
Yeah. Let me pull that up. I mean, I think pretty much there's a lot of the who's who of the minor league in there right now. I think GB Wallace is a pretty good pick. So far, I think one of the more standout players, defensive players in the backfield in the minor leagues. I'm surprised Llama isn't in there just based on the first game performance was a pretty breakout game for him.
I think TJ said he tried not putting 2-way players on it.
Oh, gotcha. You're right. And that's why many of the other players, I was like, oh, Chica Clay, I could see being on there. But yeah, I think that makes sense. I really appreciate what he...
Good to know, though, for the vote time, because I voted for a lot of 2-way players.
Oh.
So it'll be good to know that maybe I'll leave them off. So some of the lower people might pop up a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. So last season there was a big hullabaloo about for the Prospect Bowl, and I intentionally left. I put everyone in the SFLM into the list to be voted on because I'd felt it was not my place to decide who got what, right? So I left it up to the community to decide who did they want to select as their number one. And it was interesting. There were certain areas Yes, Dante Grimm did make it, but he was not the number one. He was the backup. That there was a fresh one-way player, right? A real minor league player, you could say, that made it. But again, that's what I'll probably disclaimer as well. Probably put everybody that's an option in the SFLM on that list to vote for in the prospect bowl voting, and then it's up to you to decide to vote for who you think deserves to be number one in the categories for them. So I really appreciate that TJ put the extra time to sort of type in some reasonings, and adds in things that are like off the field variety, and I think he did a great job in putting it together. Well worth whatever time you did put in there, so I appreciate that. I know it probably isn't easy going through and writing some of that out. So I don't think anybody on there doesn't deserve to be on there at all. And it was funny. So I was reading through number 6, Alex. I really am not. I'm only on my second now. Alex Marshall. It took me a second. I'm like, who is that? He says he's really active in chat and things, and I'm like, who is that? And then I'm like, oh, because his name always is FS Marshall, because I don't even think of it as starting out with an A for some reason. So
yeah, he needs to switch that sooner or later, because I think his first name is like FSA.
Exactly right. It took me like 10 seconds to actually figure that out. I had to go Google, or not Google, but search it in the Discord. But
yeah, I think the only hard part about this is I think we'll see a lot more. I think I brought this up on our previous stream that we just did, where like a Mojo, like I didn't realize he was doing so well, but now over time I'm starting to realize it, or even like O lines or D lines where you might not really, their names aren't called out a lot, but then if you look up the stats and you see like, wow, they have like 30 tackles when the next guy has 20, so it's like, but you never heard his name called back or something.
Historically, we've had a couple players, pro players who also do spend some of their time in the minor league chats and things, especially as we get closer to the draft time. Go and create almost like by position, rate the players from 1 to however many players there are, and so there's some competition of how do I get to be that number 1 rated cornerback, right? Who's above me? What are they doing that I'm not? And how do I raise my game up to sort of overtake them, kind of thing.
Just in case anybody asked, I was number 10 and I did not vote for myself.
Still made it. Good job.
Twin know all about those lists being a lot of work.
Yeah, I know.
In our season, he did the entire positional for each team and ranked them based on all that for position. He did a lot of work for us.
Yes, he was exactly him and Frank Blue, or Garrison Blue. Frank were both heavily involved in that kind of thing, which was really great for us. But it's nice. I love that TJ was taking the initiative for himself to manage and do this, which I think is great to see.
Yeah, it's good if you can have fun with it, because like for an example, we were going through chats in the minor leagues, and people were exchanging Twitters, because we were all creating our Twitters and stuff like that, and I noticed like some people didn't have Twitter banners yet, so I made my own before. So I actually messaged some of them that I went through, and I was like, oh, I don't see you have a banner. Here's one that I made for you, and feel free to replace it anytime. My feelings won't be hurt or anything like that. But I did it because it was just it was fun. I'm tooling around with the program to make some Twitter banners,
Definitely. And you're doing a service, provide helping others around you. If we all grow, well, I keep bumping. Yeah, I might be feeling it a little bit. If we all grow, we raise the lowest of us up. and whatever the term is. I don't know. Anyways, I'm getting warm. Whew.
Oh boy, it
He's
began.
drinking like the the ones that are like fully proof.
Ty asked us, and I guess he's writing this down, so he wants me to answer this one too. Who's the number one draft pick this year in your eyes? So let's take a look at this. Seattle has the number one pick, so we got to pick if we're picking like Seattle.
Mm.
Everybody's looking at the Seattle team real quick.
Yeah. I don't know if I know. Do we know anybody that's leaving the team?
We know Jalen Wells is not coming back as running back. We know that one for sure. I can probably check the player open to see what else is there, because there's a lot of work to determine what they want, because they want specific players, obviously. They
Yeah, I've
need a
noticed.
tight
So
end too.
I've watched a lot.
Defensive back 5.
I was gonna say I watched a lot of the old drafts, and it's not like the NFL, obviously. So, like for example, Nemesis, they would need a running back, obviously. But if no other team needs a running back, the running back's not going to go first.
And that's if there's some running backs that are out there that might be, they might get in free agency. That might be a position, since it's a high, very high visible spot. They might free agency that one.
I got an idea what they might want. I just got to see who's available in that spot.
I don't know the people,
There's
so
only one.
I don't know the people. So can I say a position?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
That way you can clarify if it. So they have one tight end. There's like almost no tight ends in the minor leagues that aren't two-way. So they might draft like a fullback. That's my guess.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I'm going to say, because there's currently, I believe, only one offensive lineman in the league, in the minor leagues. So I think they're going to go for that Max Van Leen.
That's a good point.
I'm sorry. Who was that you picked, Daniel?
Max Van Leen, Tacoma Grizzlies tackle, the offensive line. Because everybody wants offensive line in the pros. There's only one currently in the minor leagues, if I remember correctly. So that's a high priority pick.
I think they might go starting strong safety, is my thought. I feel like both, if I remember, or if I, again, looking at progressions on their team, I think Nana and Kevin Smoker are both gone. And so I think they might be looking, I think that might be if they could get a really solid, strong safety in the backfield, that might be very helpful for their defense. Well, they
it
just
really
got
what Seattle thinks they need, right? Because they will talk to their person weeks and weeks before the draft actually happens, saying you're our pick. So it really comes down to what they think they get in free agency compared to now.
That I was just going to ask Ty's question too. Is Doug strong safety or not? Because that would be, if so, that fills that hole really well. Or is he going back to OLB or something like that, to linebacker or something? Because I feel like he was one that was moving back and forth.
The real question is Doug Day keeping his player or playing a new position for another season?
No, I think I'm sure he'll keep his player. I don't see why he wouldn't. He wasn't on Louisiana. He was on Fort Worth. Yeah, he was strong safety, gold strong safety. I think, yeah. I think that's where he goes. I think their defense, I think, then if you're looking for just, dime and nickel back, I think you could wait until later on in the draft for those. So I think it's will they be able to fill that running back with a free agent or not? Yeah.
We do know that there are several running backs currently in free agency as of now. So who knows where it goes.
And
are there other teams that are losing running backs?
Yep. We know for sure Fort Worth is taking their shot with J.C. Bacon, so their primary number one running back for them is now in free agency. Probably getting a lot of looks with teams and trying to find the right fit for him now to come to another stand. I know Phoenix Jones, I believe, is leaving Mexico City. I believe is another one. I think he wants to test himself out in free agency as well, or maybe retiring. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think he's testing free agency.
And then another one, I believe, if I remember right on the list, now you can pop that open. Baloo Scott, I think, is a free agent as well, and she might fit really well with T and Doug over there. So I could see that potentially being something. Yeah, I saw that too with Bovine and Gagne and things. London free agents. I don't know if they're going there or it sounded like their tight end too. Why am I blanking out his name? But yeah, their tight end two I think might be looking for a tight end one spot, which might be over there.
I know Bovine might be wanting to switch back to tight end, so that might be a thing. That's why he's testing the free agency market. He's now fullback.
Yeah, Benji, thank you. Last name's M. Matson. Yeah. I think he's looking for a tight end one position somewhere. Rightfully so. He's put in his due. So you're thinking they'll go O-line.
There's only one in the minor leagues.
Do you think to do that, would they get rid of a player looking at their punter, I could see their punter not returning because they missed from week 8 on in progression. So that frees up just like an open non-required spot to put that second tight tackle in there. Or maybe Twin Screw or Coco have a take on this too. Do you go 2 tackles or 2 guards versus both left guard and left tackle on one side, or do you split it up to both sides? I don't know where I stand with that because I think there's benefits to that, especially if you're going, because you could go one way or the other with how, no matter what side your strong side is on.
Their lone tackle has missed a lot of progressions too.
Oh yes, so right. So that might even just be a simple replacement there.
Oh, that's a question I would have. So what are the rules on that? So O-lines are super rare. They have a tackle that's missed a lot of progression. Let's just say he missed all his progressions, just to make it like super crazy. So let's say he missed all his progressions. Can you keep them?
So there's a point in the season, I think it's week 6 or week 8, that your rosters are locked pretty much. If you lose somebody to progressions, you can either keep them on, that's up to the team themselves to keep them on at their sort of frozen value, or replace their name with a generic name and keep that value through the end of the season, kind of thing. So you're not like losing out per se on that player. If it's beforehand, you can take an option of we're going to boot that player off and replace him with a non-draft or an undrafted free agent from the minors or someone else, and move them up during the season, which means that player would not be drafted. They would just be joining a team. Would not, if that makes sense. That was a lot of what happened in like San Diego, which is also, I feel, sort of bad for their defensive linemen because they through the draft they only, I think they finished with one D lineman, so they had 2 or 3 to fill, and so come week 1, week 2, they're able to then move up some minor league players directly into their team at their value, and they missed out on the draft. But now that Dave Vax is coming in, they were sort of like moved, and like now they're all free agents, but don't have a lot of progressions and don't have the network that might have come from having to flex themselves with being prepared for the draft and being drafted and things. So they're sort of in a weird no man's land, sadly.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I didn't even notice that. I just looked at San Diego's progressions and week 14, 15, and 16, almost like nobody, like half their team wasn't doing progressions.
Yeah, so I'll speak on the Tulsa side because that's where I first witnessed it. One of our linebackers stopped progressing like week 3, and it was the decision of the coaches if they want to keep him as pretty much like a generic back at that point. No progressions anymore. Keep him on because he's doing really well for the season. Keep him on and keep playing, or take him out. And we ended up keeping him for the entire season. Didn't transfer it over and get a new one following season.
I think that's what happened this year with like Keith Swearingen. I think he progressed weeks 1 and week 2, and then was gone, didn't progress. And so at the point you're like, well, he's just not progressing. He's no longer tied to his player. We're just going to keep that player unprogressed, keep moving. Twin Screw brings up a good concept here too with Seattle. If they take and maybe convince maybe tackle the Tacoma offensive lineman to come in, perhaps even playing as a offensive line coach, much like how is it the Butts over in Motor City where there's like 4 of them.
There's too many to count.
Yeah, all their offensive linemen.
I heard a whole bunch of McMillans too. In
McMillans, that might
Motor
be
City,
it.
Motor City.
Yeah, that's what it was. Not the Butts. That was I think that's one of.
Yeah, there's like Ian
Dwayne
McMillan,
Schindler's.
something McMillan, another McMillan. There's too many McMillans.
Bill and Gil and Will and Phil. Yeah, they could maybe get two offensive linemen for the price of not price of one. Their cap still applies to their value still applies to the cap, but they're so far below the cap. I feel that might not be a bad thing for them.
Ironically enough, if progressions like if we had the budget that we have at the end of the season, they would still be technically under budget for the start of the season. Right now. So I mean, they do have a lot of room to work with.
Yes, exactly, and so I think, yeah, they might struggle to get up to that cap again for a second year. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it provides, you have a lot of room to grow, right? So yeah, I'm actually kind of I'm interested to see how Fort Worth and where Jason Williams might land himself, and what that means, because I believe he was doing some coaching at Fort Worth. I don't know if it was offense over there or if that was just in past years. Yeah, they started off in the 1600s to in the 1792, so they just barely got almost up to cap. He was the OC. Yeah, I'm curious what that means, because they had a pretty good run this season, and I'm just wondering where he might go. Part of me is like, well, he has to team up with his brother, maybe, but again, BDG Hollywood I don't think is going anywhere in Atlanta, so yeah, I'm not sure.
It'd be nice too if on the website you could so if you go to teams, you can check progressions. It'd be nice if you could go to team list and where you see everybody and still check progressions, because I would like to see, for example, for myself, I would like to see how many cornerbacks are missing progressions each week.
Yeah.
I think they have a question on Logan Lee.
I think the big thing with Logan Lee was his lack of consistency, and it sort of was kind of like a pariah or something, where it just, for many, though he was gold or even high silver, I don't remember exactly what he was at the draft time last year, but because he went full into animations and had, I think at the time, 50 consistency, was kind of like a no-go for majority of GMs or owners out there. Not like, nope, this is just not a viable player because of that. I think that does play a big role in how well you play, how consistent you play, and how often those animations, you might have a bunch of animations, but consistency, the more consistent you have, the more often they show themselves on the field as well. So, and you can see that, I think he got that feedback, kind of that message loud and clear. So if you look at his progressions. I think he's been saving, dropping 6 in progression, save, dropping 6 in progression, or I'm sorry, dropping 6 in consistency. So I think that's evidence he's been working on it. I think this year might be slightly different. But it's still also just not, again, because he isn't active. I don't think I've ever really seen him chat in Gen Chat or minor league chat, or hasn't gotten out there. I don't think I've ever heard him talk or anything. So
it really comes down to activity, and also animations can be scary, especially if you don't talk with the player first. Like, there is an option to get rid of all the animations when you get drafted, stuff like that. We can shed stuff to make you fit under cap, stuff like that. But you got to talk with the player first to do that. And that opens up another activity stream where Logan Lee might not have been reaching out, stuff like that. So that animations themselves can be scary to add to your draft if you don't know how the player will respond with taking them off, kind of. And I'm sure a lot of people took that like, oh, he has animations already. It's like, maybe we should start fresh with a new running back. Don't have animations, can really just boost up their stats continually and get to that. So there's always a chance that could be the mindset too.
And in talking with the deputy commissioner, I had asked him, or if so in the minor league you don't have the option to remove, much like how during our off seasons in the pros, we can adjust, take away stuff moving into the next season. So there's no option for that. So once he went animations, he stuck with those. And so this season, in leading up to so far in this minor league season, he's saved and gone consistency and has gotten 16 points of consistency, which was pretty much his entire focus for 14 of his progression weeks to get 16 consistency points, and he's only about halfway there. He also doesn't have any catch, which is hard because you want to be able to. That's your check down point. If you're not open downfield and you want to check down to your running back or in screenplays, if he's not going to be able to catch the ball consistently, that's tough. That's your fallback. And if your safety net isn't there, even to pick up 1 or 2 yards and save a sack kind of thing. That's tough. And yeah, he's right now. So he was 40 consistency at the draft, out of a maximum of 90. So he's now at 56 out of 90, but he's got a long uphill battle for that. And then to be able to, with being gold, you get one primary point each week. So he's at 37 catch, the minimum out of 65. And so that's another spot that I could see him putting in there as well. So
also you got to take into account the teams only got so much equity that they can spend on people. I think that really happened to Mike Savage a few seasons ago, that he was the best wide receiver stat wise. He was gold, he was higher than everybody else, but he didn't get drafted until the very last round as a tight end because no one could take the cap to actually bring him in order to sign a contract. Because he was just worth too much. So all that plays a part when you go into drafting. You got to make room for the cap. So sometimes the big fishes out there take a step back because they need to fill a certain spot for room with the money they have.
So his best bet is either one of two things: is to let his attributes catch up to his animations, which could take a while, or it appears he's listening, but talking to a team to be like, look, if you draft me, I'll take the animations away, and that'll lower my cost. So I'll be so for maybe like a lower team that needs just a running back to come in.
Yeah. But yeah, with those that are out there, if you take away his animations, his traits themselves aren't quite. I would almost opt for some of the other, like at least maybe 1 or 2 other running backs might be ahead of him in the traits. So it's kind of like a hard spot for him.
And that's why we always say, work on your attributes first before getting animations, because everyone knows, or all the coaches and owners will see that you're working on the main aspects. Animations are good short term. Attributes will help you throughout the journey.
Yeah, your traits are out there every single play. your animations might be every fifth one, every 10th one. Who knows? But
we've proven this as a fact of life that you could be a bronze free safety. I'm taking myself as example because that's what I was the previous season, not the season we just had in Minnesota. In Tulsa, I was a bronze free safety, no animations. I made All-Star game, 9 interceptions for the season. So if you don't need animations to be successful in
the other thing that's interesting, so look again, having now some more experience with looking at different running backs and their builds. Logan Lee being 6'2", but also 180 is very light, but also pretty tall and lanky. But he can't catch, doesn't have any jump, so you can't like put him out there, lining up on the outsides or things too. It's because of that, and so it's sort of like it's hard. Like there's no huge shining part to it, sadly.
So I have a question. If you convert, so let's say, is that only a draft thing? So like if Logan Lee was like, I want to be a fullback, can he do that in the minors? And if he can he drop things when he does that?
I would think yes, and that he can carry
So
over
that
his
could be
values over. But again, I think there's certain limitations, and again, that's where the DC, the deputy commissioner, would come in. And I know that there are certain things that, as different positions, like tight end can go to OL maybe, or OL can go to. No, I don't think tight end can go to OL, but like tight end to wide receiver, there's like a sequence of, you have to go to one before you can go to the next kind of thing. That might be an option that maybe he might need to look at, or because his traits should be able to pass along, but I'm not sure about the animations. That's where, or can you plead with the DC to say, please just take my animations away? No, I don't.
Good point, Ty. Yeah, you got to fit under certain categories for certain backs. I don't think 6'2" makes the cut for finesse back, right?
I don't think so. I think 6 foot might be that cutoff, and then anything above, then you're at either. I don't think even balanced. I think you're at power back size, and he's way too light. And even if you put on 20 pounds, he's a 200-pound power back would be tough still.
So as someone who's newer, so if you go to his progressions in week 6, right? So he spent 4 secondary on 4 consistency. So if you get 1 per week, how come he had to save them to use them? Did he have to do that, or could he have done like 1 every week or something?
So for gold, you can't drop any. You automatically have to save. You can't apply. You don't get any points by default. So in order to get 2 secondary points, you have to save at least 1 week. Save a second week, you get 4. Save a third week, that's the max. Then you can drop 6. So you see him save, drop 6. Save, drop 6. And that's for secondary. If you were save, drop 3 primary. So, and that's if you're looking at increasing your stats as a gold, it's you get the most out of saving 3 weeks in a row versus save, drop 1, save, drop 1. Because to get 3 points in that save, drop 1, save, drop 1, save, drop 1, you're 6 weeks in versus save, drop 3. That's 4 weeks to get 3 versus 6 weeks to get 3. So it's so at gold, you're kind of like your progressions for your traits is pretty minimal. And at that point, it's pretty much focused on saving to get animations. And at that point, 4 saves, then you can get a low value animation, or 5 saves, you can get a high value animation. So by the time you reach gold, you should be where you want to be with your traits, kind of thing. So, yeah, exactly. You can't do anything unless you save first as a gold. Yeah, Michael Brown out there, 6'2" and 235. Soft hands. Been squeezing those tennis balls, getting those forearms good to grip that ball tight. But yeah, typically the finesse backs tend to be more on the smaller side. There's a really short, and I say that in a good way for a finesse back because you're kind of small and tiny. I can't remember who it was. but a newer player that is 5'8" or 5'7", maybe. No, that's not. Yeah, Sean Sanders is 5'7", 190. So that's 7 inches shorter than Logan Lee, but 10 pounds heavier. As a finesse back. And that seems about right, for his weight. Looking at like, hey, Robert Redford, I think is maybe 5'10" and 200 or 210, something like that. That's usually what you tend to see is that for the finesse backs is that 5'10", 200 ish. So to have a 6'2", 180 seems, it's just different. How are y'all doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm not the one drinking.
Well, this is my third one now.
I'm still my first. I don't really drink.
If Derek was here, he'd be through 6 by now.
I think he would be through 6 that first before we even started After Dark.
Yeah, didn't he have like 8 ready to go last time?
Maybe.
He went through them all.
He was bummed that he wasn't able to be here. So, Derek, this one's for you. This one's
Daniel. Daniel might. I was going to say Daniel might know this, but Wade Boggs would be through like 36 of them by now.
Oh yeah, it's true.
So this is a coffee cake blonde ale. So it's got a little bit of a sweeter, not really sweet, but like just sweet notes of sweetness and cinnamon. Pretty tasty, palatable.
So another question is Logan Lee grandfathered into that size?
So typically the portal does a good job of marking things that are outside of the range as red. So I'm not sure why it's his height isn't marked as red. If it's outside or if 6'2" is like actually the max, but it seems odd that 6'2" would be because that is quite tall as a running back. I'm going to go check the owner's manual, see if those thresholds are listed in there.
Poor Logan Lee. He's always getting talked about.
Hey, activity, Logan Lee. Now is the time to go for it.
Right,
Get your name out there.
Well, like you said, though, he must be listening because I think it was a while ago where people were talking about his animations, and then he's been kind of just going for the progressions lately.
And who knows, maybe it's those progressions that are finally kicked in for last week, right? He did save up to get the consistency up a bit. So maybe that did play a factor.
So in looking at running backs on the little dot chart, that is what Cam and the league use as sort of their threshold from which pulls in a lot of data from the actual NFL. So again, trying to base these thresholds on what we're seeing in actual gameplay out there. It seems that the minimum is around 5'7", 5'8", and the max might be around 6 foot 6'1", but that doesn't mean that 6'2" couldn't be out of the realm. There might be a 6'2" running back out there somewhere in the league, or had been 5-10 years ago or something. But
well, you got to think if you're 6'2" and 180, you'd have to be finesse, right?
I can see. I couldn't imagine. There, yeah. I don't know if like 200 might even be the minimum, or something 190, 200 for a power back. So means that I don't have like access to that sheet for the old, like I think it's in the archive.
Well, Twin Screw just put down something. Finesse 5'4" to 6. Balance is 5'7" to 6'1". Power 5'10" to 6'2".
Gotcha. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
that is a good question about Logan Lee being a finesse back, being 6'2".
But
So
he is it's not like a typo though, because his speed is 92.
correct. Yep. So he is a finesse back, and it shows. You know, you download the roster, and I'm sure he shows up as 186 too. So I don't know if this side of, so again, you've got this SFL side, you've got the SFLM side of the portal. I wonder if it's just not fully set up on the minor league side or something.
So he's rare, so his stock just shut up.
He's a one of one. He's very old.
Yeah, he's unique. Again, I mean, he having that height and that more of like, he's built like a wide receiver out there pretty much. And so having him in the backfield, but maybe you'd think that maybe at that point you'd lean more into having, you know, higher catch, you know, or higher run route. Yeah, exactly. To be able to be out there, and the game would recognize, defenses would recognize him as a running back, which would change the type of defense that they might put against him. But maybe put him in an H flex or something like that, where he's outside and running a passing route, and might have some success there against a linebacker that might need to be covering him or something. But again, then it's all in strategy and things. You never know. But yeah, it's interesting.
And Twin Screw with the knowledge again is putting out the weight. Finesse 180 to 210. Balance 190 to 220. Power 200 to 240.
So that's crazy that he is the max of the power, of the heights of the power back, but at the minimum of the finesse back.
So it must be reading from the weight.
He is a rear build.
All right, I changed my mind. Nemesis, take him.
I don't know. I mean, they have cap to spend, perhaps. So if they don't get a running back in free agency, I could see taking a gamble on it. Like, yeah, I don't know. That's the trouble though. You don't know what you're getting if you don't. I haven't, again, like I said, I don't know who he is. I don't know what he brings to a team or what his demeanor is, because I haven't, in the 2 or so-ish years, 3 years that he's been, this is his 3rd season in the minor leagues. I don't know what his demeanor's like, what his locker room demeanor's like. So you'd rather have the devil you know than the devil you don't kind of thing. Or if you're a gambling person, hey, yeah, I'll take it. Or you talk to their coaches or their fellow players and things. But
well, if he's not drafted in a few years, Lincoln Rattlesnakes are going to be insane.
He just needs to keep getting those progressions, right? Those.
It's very
too bad
tough for running back and quarterbacks to get drafted generally too. And there was a big racket. There was a whole bunch of quarterbacks and running backs drafted last season. There might be slim pickings with all the free agencies roaming around. What actual spots get filled by draft?
Just from plays you've seen in the minors, do you have a favorite name that you've come across?
I got a whole bunch of favorites.
Just this season?
Go. Yeah, just this season. I know there's I won't be able to tell you last season. There's a whole bunch of. So Young Va was a good name, but Reggio De Niro was a great name.
The cousins,
yep. Reggio De Niro making that money, just perfect to go with. This season, I have to go to my favorite teams that have them all, right? Where are they to?
I like Snick Farms. For some reason, it makes me hungry. It's like those cheese places.
There's a new player, Saint Nebuchadnezzar. It's pretty sort of. It's just a fun, old biblical kind of bringing the fires of damnation and hell to your your field.
So Madison has a whole bunch of good ones. We already know that. I think Kano Fortson. I just picture Kano from Mortal Kombat in my mind every time I say his name. We have Swiss Thumper is a great name, obviously. The backstory is even greater now. To know with that his backstory that his cousin got killed in the streets, so he took off. Yeah, it's like that's great. Prince Wonder's a great name. Claudius Periwinkle might be my favorite so far. Claudius Periwinkle. It's just a great name.
I'm a fan of like Yay Verite, the kicker. Yay! I guess that reminds me of like Mickey kind of thing. And then there's where is it? Guy Incognito. It's pretty interesting too. There's a player, Gibson. Mickey Gibson is a defensive lineman. And then there's, I don't know if they're related or like there's a figure. I think he might be on Annapolis. Let me go to that team.
Yeah. Oh, it's the Adams. It's the
I
Adams.
told you should have been
Adams.
drafted last season. Remember that.
It's
So-
Melt Gibson, and I feel bad for the announcers whenever they have to cover his game.
Yeah, I'm like Mickey and Melt, Gibson and Gibson. I'd love to have like an apostrophe T there instead of be like Gibson.
Gino McFly is another good name.
Yep.
Anyone that has the last name McFly is obviously good in my book.
If you look it up, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but Ben Stiller auditioned for that part, and he was actually pretty good.
Really?
You can look that up online. Yeah.
Oh, Guy Incognito. I think someone mentioned that already. That's another great name.
Oh, I never even heard of this one. Dimitri Monzuma. That's kind of a cool name.
Yeah, pretty. I think just last week or the week before, new player. I don't know how this one passed, or if it's just like the drinking Justin or Axel. My name is Justin, but Axel. Gerald Cumbus. I don't know how that one went by, but I like Mojo.
Gareth Ford got by.
Mojo McLean is a pretty sweet name. Rolls off the tongue. Rob
Oh, I
Hunt,
do like
brother
I do
of
like Azami Mahata. That's a cool name.
That's a good one.
Rob Hunt, brother of Mike. Sorry.
Bend over.
Yes.
Get into my dad jokes.
Oh yeah. Lars Bizarre.
Okay, so go to this. You probably know this, Nicholas. How do you say your strong safety's last? Or no, your strong safety's last name. The second one.
Oh, that's Saint Nebuchadnezzar. That's
Okay.
Axel brought that out.
There you go.
Nebuchadnezzar. Yep. Sort of like one of the King Nebuchadnezzar in the Old Testament of the biblical times.
Oh, that goes up there in my great names. Claudius Periwinkle, that was my favorite.
That is weird for the Periwinkle because I think when I play wow, my brain's not working either. XCOM.
Oh yep.
One of the guys I always create is his last name is Periwinkle because it's one of the guys that does like the magic and he's like purplish, so I name him Periwinkle.
We had my wife and I had I don't remember the year. It might have been like a 91 Ford Taurus that was Periwinkle, and we called it Perry for short.
You never owned a brown probe?
No, no. I had a friend who had a red one, but we knew why it was called Probe. Yeah. But it's after dark. That looked like a female, a tool used by females. Very rounded.
I still want someone to create Tua, Mississippi. I think that'd be an awesome name. Because we already have Juan, Mississippi.
Just go down that line.
You could be Trey, Mississippi.
Chance
So we've
to
got-
win in the pros is a good name too. Chance to win. Or
Yeah.
kicker.
So yeah, week 4 in less than 48 hours. That's I'm I I'm curious to see so we've got Madison at the top, Annapolis at the bottom. We've got a set of 3-2-1 and 3-1-2s. It's still early enough that it's could be anybody's game still.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
fun of the seasons, right? All the teams kind of close in on each other, and it all becomes a stack in the middle towards the end of the season. And it really comes down to the last one or two games on who gets in and gets out.
Yeah,
Even last season was like that.
Yeah, it's like, and you're watching other games to see, because your fate is decided sometimes on who wins or loses in another game too. So that, I think that was like last season or the season before, that was quite the case, that there was so many people watching this one game because so many people's playoff dreams and hopes lived with the who won or who lost of that one. But now that this Saturday is the big championship, which is pretty crazy already. Do you guys think Baltimore?
I hope
do you think
he's doing a lot of Sims?
Yeah, I Baltimore is the one to beat. Like they have that Trek record. They've got the actual regular season record. They've got the championship rings. They haven't had much turnovers. They've got that proven pattern and formula. So it's I feel like we took them down. So if we could do it, I'm sure Eddie could figure out how to do it. And yeah, I this might as it was around the time that Arizona beat LSG to in that first round, first level. I could see this being the year of Arizona. You think so? Twin Screw and Baltimore win?
So my idea is, I think everyone wants Arizona to do the upset, but realistically, people are like, it's Baltimore, here they come again, they're taking enough. There's that's always going to be there, right? Because Baltimore's just that good. They're always back in the championship games. They're always playing. They're always winning. But I think everyone wants the upset. Or I think a majority of people would like to see the upset.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be a really good game, and I'm excited to see how it might play out.
It feels weird though, because it almost feels like I hate to say it, but they almost lucked themselves into the playoffs, or not into the playoffs. Was it the first game of the playoffs where there was 20 seconds left and they were down and they didn't even have the ball, and they got the ball back, and then they ran down the field and kicked the longest field goal kick that the kicker's ever done?
That was semifinals, was it? No, it was the second week, something like that. It was against Florida. I remember that. I actually turned it off because I was like, "Oh, Arizona lost," and then people are just talking about it in our group chat. I'm like, "What? What happened?"
And that was, it wasn't exactly that, but in that first playoff week too, Arizona LSG came out pretty strong. They went up 21-3 or something like that in the first half, and then that second half was just all Arizona. Arizona took it home with 40 some points against LSG again. So it's just sort of they seem to have something that is willing them forward. When things aren't looking well, something happens and turns it around.
We should check. They probably all have the clutch animation.
Baltimore's tough though. They don't need to do a whole lot to show how they're good they are, and they can do it on both sides. I think one playoff game, I think I was telling you this, Axel. Their backup running back had 187 yards running.
Wow.
Because their starter got injured.
Was that
right away?
Against DC maybe or something?
It was against DC, I believe. Yeah,
okay.
I think it was that game. I wonder if I can pull up the stats on that game, because that was hilarious.
Oh yeah, Pete said it was. Coco said it was against DC, and yeah, DC. All the power to them that they didn't look great against Baltimore in that game. But again, it's hard to. Baltimore seems to have to know the secrets somehow, and luckily we faced them at home. So, yeah.
So they had 138 Russian. It shows here, but I assume there's more combined with the receiving. But only T. has 13 rush yards, and Warmori has no rush yards. So all the rest of that is by running back of the
Wow.
backup.
Yeah. Ty says something in the chat. Championship pick 6 for Eddie. I'm curious, if I were to put it to Eddie, would you take the championship win or a pick 6 and a championship loss? I'm sure he would totally take the win, but what a way to go out, or to what a context to have that first pick 6 in for Eddie would be that championship game. Can you imagine that being the game winner, fourth quarter, steal that and run that into that end zone? Can you imagine how hyped he would be?
And everybody would say it took him long enough.
Yeah. They should have like a literal live camera on Eddie as he's watching the game, because I can see that being more. If that was a separate stream, I'd almost watch that than the game itself.
I have multiple monitors. I would put it on one of them.
Definitely, like to have them synced and like watching.
They should get someone that's sales savvy to sell the name of the championship game, like the Funyuns Bowl or something.
I'm excited. We have like the All-Star game. I'm excited to see who might make that for this year.
I have a good feeling of someone that might have a chance in the legend. Cody Griffin had a hell of a season.
Yeah, lots of handful of pick 6s and picks themselves. Yeah.
Is it all based on vote, or is there kind of like how in baseball where like one person from every team has to make it?
So there's a group that decides who gets it what based on stats. I think it's mostly Cam doing like numbers, stuff like that, to see who actually played the best in their position. And he usually ranks them. If you're first in one stat, you get so many points. If you're second in another stat, you get so many points. Like, he listed them by points to either make it easier, because I think that's what he did last season.
A more objective type of criteria.
Because I only ranked because that's the season I made playoffs, because I made All-Star, and I was like, I didn't think I was gonna make it. I had a feeling that I could make it, but I didn't know how they did it or whatnot. And I was the top in one stat, and like I was pretty well rounded the rest of the stats. So I ended up being the number one free safety in the East, I think it was, because we're East side with Tulsa. And Mike Ryan, who I thought had a better season because he had one pick every day for like a 12 days straight, or 12 games straight, going into the season previous. And he ended up, all he did was get interception, so he ended up being the second behind me.
Someday I'll make it there. Someday.
Hey, you had a pick 6 this season.
I did my first pick 6. I've had it in 2 interceptions, one per season. Minor league season 17, season 18, and now a pick 6 in 19. For a linebacker, that's not terrible. Getting better at the pass deflections, which is good. TFLs are getting up there. Man, that Juan Mississippi stealing on my tackles. No. he was a beast out there.
Now, the thing that does get voted on will be end of year awards. He'll have they'll set a group saying, let's say defensive player of the year. He'll set a number of names, and we pick the name that we think is best.
Be like, oh, here's the 5 candidates, and that's voted on by the community.
That's cool.
Honestly, they should be coming out probably next 2 or 3 weeks, I would say.
I would think so. Assuming that the All-Star game would be early December is my assumption. Likely, or even like the weekend. I don't know. I don't think I've seen like a full schedule, but knowing that the draft is like the 16th and 17th or something, which is earlier than it was last December. Last December was after Christmas and New Year's time.
Yeah, it was right after Christmas because I did draft analysis and I had an ear infection New Year's Day, so I couldn't hear out of one ear. Remember?
Yep.
And then
And
my mic broke, or my webcam
you had,
broke the day of the draft. So I went out to Walmart and bought a new webcam in order to do the draft analysis for that game in a few hours.
and I was held up in bed with infection.
Yeah,
Lots
couldn't
of
hear out of the left ear. I was leaning like this so I can hear everything so I can talk. So I was leaning on the right ear. Oh, it was good times.
yep. So yeah, that should be. I wonder, because there's Thanksgiving in the middle. I can only imagine it has to be that like that first week of December, or like the second weekend, or like the single digits, 6th or 7th.
Raccoon asked a question for Nicholas. How many picks would you like?
In the game on Friday.
I mean, I would like one. I mean, I'm literally getting thrown the ball sometimes, and
You're
I'm
like,
just like,
"Patty
I don't want it. So the first one's always the nicest, so I'll take that. I mean, I'll also take another bunch of deflections because it's always nice to bat down the ball. Oh, I've dropped plenty. Although technically, I've only dropped a couple. I think the rest of them, I just need to jump a little higher.
Yeah, there's always player opens going up like at least once a week, like a new team setting up what they want. So keep an eye on player opens to see what people need, because I'm sure there'll be a quarterback position, maybe one or two, because there's a few quarterbacks right now in free agency that are probably going to new homes. But there's always a chance that some team will want a new one. One quarterback might retire per chance. You never know.
So right now there's an opening in Queen City. OJ Bruin left. I don't know if that was. I think he was cut. Jacksonville. Jordan Sipe was either cut. I think he was cut or left.
Eric Price
Denver.
left.
Denver. Eric Price is. I think Eric Price was from Madison season 3. Was drafted there, so he's been there for three seasons and is trying out free agency. So in Denver, so Denver has a spot open. Denver's I know. Oh, gosh, these drinks are starting to hit me, but I am looking in my. Oh gosh, stick with me.
Is that what happened?
Stephon Forge, thank you.
Is that what happened with Pepper Raccoon?
Oh really? Hey Jay, thanks for tuning in, watching.
Yeah, because that was a big thing that was up to that. No one knew what was happening with Pepper. That's crazy.
I don't know. I wonder if I didn't check Ty.
I checked like yesterday or something. He was still around.
But I know. So again, getting back to Denver, Eric Price exploring free agency. I know Stephon Forge, great person there, and then Javier Vasquez. I'm involved with him a little bit in like the esports simulation league stuff with iRacing that he does. Seems like a great person as well over there. Jeremy Vega over there is a pretty fun-loving guy. I'm pretty sure it's a pretty good place to land.
I think he's still on the server and he still technically has the Jacksonville Colors, but there's rumors going around that he's not playing in Jacksonville. That's the most I can tell you on that. Now, obviously, it's up to them to get the free agency tag, right? They can cut you, and then you got to go towards them saying, "Hey, I'm not playing with this team next season. Have the free agency tag so I can showcase it." So it just probably will take a few days for that to happen.
And I don't know. I feel like I've heard that maybe Trellis Blanton over at Seattle might be gone too, but I'm not sure. He's still there, so I don't know if that's true or not. Scar Patterson, he was concerned. I was in his DMs, but it seems like he might be staying there. But we also know that maybe, who knows if Johnny Pickler might be moving over there too. And I don't know. There might be some shuffling, which means that London might have a spot open. And where does Scar go? Because he's so again, as you have free agents out there, OJ Bruin, Eric Price, Jordan Sipe, if Jordan is, again, if he's a viable option in free agency, they're going to be competing for those same spots. But
And
also,
don't forget Matt Wilson.
Oh, yep.
You need a spot in Mexico City now.
Yep. But yeah, if you're out there, how could you compete with these free agents? Which I think, if Ty, I think you bring a lot to a team. So I think you could be a competitor compared to, what other seasoned veterans that might be out there at free agency. So again, it's all about getting your name out there. So you've been doing a good job so far, and showing your value over at Atlanta and leading the team in Albuquerque. It will be a fun off season. I'm glad that BJ and Jason France are doing all of our GM stuff, because I just get to sit back and watch or share my opinion occasionally.
Hopefully
There's a lot here, but we can confirm that OJ Bruin for sure is a free agency. He got the free agency. Eric Price, we know from the Denver, saying that he's trying free agency, so we know those two for sure. So we know at least a few spots are definitely free agent. Sipe, I've heard, I've not confirmed or nothing, so.
It's listed in the Hoff Season Hub, but you never know. If that's a good, solid, accurate point of truth.
Oh yeah, as to why, yeah. There's a lot here.
Oh yeah,
why they're free agency.
I see.
I've heard a few things.
Read between the lines a little bit or things, yeah.
Yeah,
but you never know what the situation is or was.
And it's not our point to tell their stories of what happened between them and team.
Exactly. Links up. Go Madison. Links
But
Jay.
considering Mexico City needs a quarterback, so there's probably, unless someone from retirement comes back, there's probably going to be at least one quarterback open probably then, right?
For sure, yeah. Jay Ballmer, curious on what player you have, if you have a player, I assume, on Madison. Are you JT Jackson or Dan Dash? I don't know. Jay Ballmer, you're the fullback. Why am I even? I don't know why I looked up past you, like, oh, maybe he's using a different name. Oh nope, your name. You're blocking for Michael Brown out there. That's awesome. Welcome.
He's no Van Damme.
I've got the moves like Ballmer. Sorry that I'm. Anyways.
Like I said, he's had a few drinks.
I'm on my third.
It should be a disclaimer every time.
It's just a running ticker at the bottom. I apologize. I'm sorry. Just appreciate your grace.
I do not accept your apology.
Oh no.
Any other topics we want to discuss? Any other questions? Still got a little bit of time, I'm sure, before I pass out.
In the list of teams for the minor leagues, how come there's the I thought it was going to start getting filled. The
Oh,
Memphis River
Memphis River
Runners.
Runners. So they were in the portal the first time the portal came to the minor leagues because they were a team, and then they transitioned out and haven't been back. I don't know why they're still in the portal. It always confuses me because I always click them and see no one there. But they were originally part of a team when the portal got created. The first they were a team before that, obviously, but and then they transitioned out and other teams. I think Lincoln took the spot for the time being.
Correct. I think it's just legacy thing.
I thought
As-
like maybe they would be the next team if like more people signed up or something.
So there are, I believe, they're one of the 3 additional minor league teams that are out there. So there's the Salt Lake City Rustlers, which I think became the Lincoln Rattlesnakes. I think the majority of that team switched over to that. Memphis, I think, was just simply dissolved and went into other teams. And then there's the I think Albuquerque was no more, and the Boise Mud Dogs took
Yeah.
over, and then Boise left after 1 year. I think they were just there. I think they were one of the. So I think there's total of 10 total minor league teams. That so again, the minor league can flex if there are even more players coming in, if it needed to, and so, yeah. So when Mike All took over from like the Salt Lake City Rustlers, he's like, well, I was on the Lincoln Rattlesnakes. Let's bring that team back. So again, it's just sort of bringing some teams back and forth. Oh, there's the Birmingham Fuel as well. So again, we've got 8 teams. 4 teams are not represented anymore. So that's 12 teams total that the minor leagues could ebb and flow into if needed. So
Has a minor league ever became a pro team? Because like for an example, if I was out of ideas and I wanted to own a team, the
mhm.
Adams would be kind of a cool one to like. Everyone loves their uniforms. And everything.
So they are, I believe, on the in the realm of availability, or at least pro teams would trump locations. So if you wanted to have the Albuquerque something or others, the Birmingham something or others. So again, I don't know if they would allow you to have the Adams or not, but I know that pro teams would overtake. So then they would remove the Albuquerque Adams because it's a conflict of locations. They'd bring back one of the old teams probably, but that's how that would work. So
Do you guys have any preferences for let's just say they added another 2 teams? Are there locations that you think are missing from the map that should be filled in?
I know that there's interest in expanding even further internationally. So I know, and I think like Ashley Jackson's been mentioning that if she were to submit a proposal, it would be for a team in Tokyo, because I mean Japan and esports and other things might bring another type of, maybe we get some Japanese Tokyoans in to watch some of the games, and it just broadens the reach of the league itself. And similarly, there's a lot of people from Australia, so that might be an option. Could be the Melbourne something or others type of thing.
I know,
Canadian.
another Canadian would be cool, obviously, as the Canadians in the house. But they did it in the hockey. I really like the idea of a Rome team. You could base it on gladiators or something like the Coliseum, something like that. I like the idea of having a Rome team.
So I don't know why Madden chose it, but I think Dublin's an option. I wonder if there's like a demand for a Dublin team.
I mean, that wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. Again, it's trying to figure out where's a good underrepresented area that maybe there's already some viewership or interest in American football, and or esports and things. The Italian Stallions, based out of like Philadelphia or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, I think that's all part of what's on the the table is trying to find that right spot. There had been for like Minnesota, it's where I live, so I think that means that I can go out to my local bars here and ask them, hey, could you broadcast our games? I went and had a meeting with the local brewery to see if they'd be willing to sponsor us and things like that. So trying to get some of that local regional stuff, support for our team, because I am actually in the area here. And there was a Minneapolis team previously. There's less represented. There was a Chicago team, the Wildcats, back in like season 14 or 15 before, but that's another underrepresented. New York isn't on there, like Ty is saying. There was a New York Gladiators proposal that went in that didn't move on. Argentina or some sort of Central America, maybe to compete again with Mexico City. Maybe there'd be maybe like the Sao Paulo, Brazil, or something like that, or San Juan, Puerto Rico. Who knows? A Cuban.
I was
team.
surprised there was no Boston/New England team.
There was a Boston Crabs, and that was I don't know how involved. I don't think it was an exact moving from that to the Baltimore Vultures, but I feel like there's some association there. I think it's before my time, but there was a Boston Crabs earlier on. Yeah, like there's some areas that aren't quite represented. You've got Tulsa, there was an Oklahoma City that moved into Louisiana, I believe. Or maybe New Orleans moved into Louisiana. Anyways, there's a OKC team, I believe. I'm trying to think of other mid. You got Sioux Falls, Minnesota. You got Indianapolis now and Canton. But you don't really have much in the Southeast. You've got the North Carolina, the Carolina, and the Charleston, and then you've got the DC and Baltimore area. But there's not much. Montana. I have this. I did some fun little branding for. There's a World Federation of Alliance Football or World Football Alliance it was something else. I had done the Montana Big Sky. I was owner for that team for a little bit in a different league or whatever. Lots of options.
Would you need like a 5,000 seat stadium?
Yeah, maybe even less. I don't know. It's just like bring your own chairs kind of thing.
I wouldn't mind so I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, so I've been watching one of my favorite Disney movies now is Ratatouille. I love that movie now. So a Paris team would be kind of cool.
That would be pretty cool.
Just think of all the great food stalls we would have.
Just crepes upon crepes. It's the Paris baguettes.
Although isn't the London team the owner is actually English, right?
He is. Yeah, Liam Crowder is that's where he lives, is London or England. I don't know. I don't know if it's like actual downtown London or somewhere, but yeah, with Alex, I'm blanking on his last name now. Alex Marshall. He's from London or cool. Britain. And then Bread, if we know Bread, he's not a player, but I think he's in Australia. It sounds like Jim Copeland Jr. might be in Australia at the moment, based on when he says good morning. It sounds like he's there. Liam Ryan, I think, is a defensive back in Mexico City who lives in Australia, I believe.
Oh, Jared Brody is also from Australia.
Okay.
Know that because he's my goalie in hockey.
So the two of them in Mexico City, both being from Liam Ryan and Gerard.
Yeah, so they must be talking about the games afterwards to each other.
Yep. I know.
One could be fun too is you wouldn't think of this, but but like every GI Joe has a Cobra, so you could have like a Moscow team. That'd be kind of cool.
You could definitely the Moscow Babushkas or something. I don't know.
It's too bad you can't customize stadiums. You could make kind of cool stadiums for the foreign teams.
Yeah, I get the different backgrounds of the different like the actual like Eiffel Tower things for the French one, or
there's got to be some sort of mod system, right, for that game. It's a pretty popular game, right?
For AFL or APF.
Stadium? Yeah.
I don't know. I know that there is for gosh, I think it's the year or two before. It's like a 20 or 2005. I don't know if it's APF or it's something else, but they just released a recent mod, maybe 2 months ago, that where you can change a lot more of what's available in there. I know.
We just gotta woo a programmer into the league.
Yeah, Twin Screw and St. Tuitius said it's the ESPN NFL 2K5 has a new mod, 4K mod, I believe it is, that allows you to change a lot of different things by simply swapping out pings in their database, and just relays it out and shows the stuff. So there's a lot more, a lot of customization that you can do. It's just the look of the players is a little bit old school looking. So it's kind of like, what do you give up for some extra customization? So just Saint. Awesome. Hello.
Well, Rome team could be the Saints because they have the Vatican City.
The popes. It's the Rome
Too
popes.
deep now.
I'm a big fan of ancient history. I actually collect ancient coins, funny enough, from Greece and Rome times.
Yeah, we canceled cable a while ago to move to more internet based, and I was like, we have to get something that has the History Channel on it.
Nice.
History, Discovery, I love all that stuff.
Yeah, it's fun to hold things in your hand that are 2,000-3,000 years ago. Historical shows like Drunk History. No, I don't know. More specifically, Time. Oh yes, I love Time Team. I like watching them try to dig up all those mosaics, and they're like, oh, it should be here, and all the different telemetry or whatever yeah, it's fun. Some of the old stuff where the host is like wearing the teal and purple like windbreakers and things. I love like Mary Beard documentaries talking about like Caligula and all the different things, and like the Roman baths in Britain and things like that.
It's cool once you learn some of that stuff. Cause like Caligula, you almost feel bad because I guess he was a normal dude, and then I think he almost died, and then he came back kind of crazy.
Yep. And his father died really like pretty early, and his father was going to be the preeminent replacement for, I think it was either Augustus or Tiberius, and he died. It was Germanicus, I think it was his father, and Caligula, who hated that name, as Gaius something or other, Gaius Germanicus. There was so much weight on his shoulders about taking over, and like, well, I don't want to be this, and was sort of forced into it. But later, Twin Screw, and then so yeah, Michael Brown. How do you go about owning a team? So that is you have to wait until the right time when the league is seeking to expand.
Or someone sells their team.
You could look at Jacksonville. They were offering their team up for $7,000. Yeah. So ultimately you have to put together, do some concepting, and just like Michael Percoco is talking about, what is your brand? Where do you want to put it? Why are you wanting to put it there? Who's going to be doing your staff, coaching options, all that kind of stuff going into it. I'd be willing to share my presentation. If you are really interested, feel free to DM me. I can share it. We can have more conversation about that. But yeah, ultimately, why do you want to be an owner? Because they're looking for longevity and people that, you know, are come in and do that. And there's, you know, obviously there's money involved. You have to, I think it's like for us, this last time it was $500 for the team to purchase it. And then there's extra owners fees, which is, I think right now I'm paying as a 50% owner, $15 a month. So what is that? I don't, $150 a year ish, 160 a year for my half of the team and stuff. So there's a variety of things, and managing that and making sure that you know, you have interviews and you're, you know, kind of selling yourself a little bit, making sure that you, because it's all voted on by other fellow owners. So making sure that you get yourself out there. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's again, I was like, when I was getting close to, yeah, I paid $250 of it for my half of it, and BJ paid the other $250. But that's the buy-in right now for it. But again, I feel like the going rate for them, if I were to sell, I'd be looking for, you know, 2, 3, 4 times that. I think might be going rate for it for those that are interested. Maybe, I don't know. That's just a guess, but we get some residuals for like our purchases of apparel, and now that we're established, because I was trying to seek sponsorship from companies before we stepped out on the field for any game, but now that we have we have a season under our belts where we appear more legitimate to other businesses, so we can look for getting some sponsorship as well. And I think come the first of the year now, you know, after the NFL season dies and we'll just be starting our season 20, I think that'll bode well and will be a great time to get out there and shake hands, kiss babies, and see if we can get some additional sponsorship for and airplay and like people who are interested in football during the NFL off season. I think that's just a great time. So, but yeah, it's a dedication. It's something fun that I get to do. So.
It is a time-consuming commitment to do that. As
Yeah.
Axel will tell you.
Yeah, I feel like coaching is more time-consuming, and it's hard because for coaching, the reward at the end of it sometimes doesn't justify the effort that goes into it sometimes, because you could sim, you know, 60 to 80 hours yourself, you know, putting that much time into game planning, and then at the end of the day still walk home with the L, and you're like, what? But with, you know, owning and like applying, like I could design t-shirts, I could, you know, put together business proposals for, you know, partnerships or sponsorships, and, you know, go out and do some of those things. And I feel like that might be worth more of my time. You know, the effort better equates, or is more probable to equating to a win in a different type of way than a record win. But you do what you have to do, and you know, when you own, there's the responsibility, you know, for you're sort of in charge of the 22 people on your team, and building it and making sure that they're happy and getting what they need out of it, that getting what they want out of their investment into the team, into the league. Because I know in general, yes, I've paid a lot more to be here, but you know, your $5 a month, $6-7 a month is still, you know, an investment into the league, into your experience, and just want to make sure that you guys get what you are paying for. So yeah, exactly. If I'd love to be able, like, that's my goal is in 2023 to be in the green for our ownership, so that we can, or at least have a way to build our brand reach, get people to get sponsors that will retweet us and build some more following and more even regional following. I'd love to have like the local sports bars having the games played up there, and I want to print out some of these big like so I live in Minnesota. We'd see a lot of like Minnesota Vikings schedules where they put like using the markers, and they put the scores and win and loss next to them in the sports bars. I'd love to see like a Minnesota Legend, big poster up in the sports bars and things in the cities here. And that's sort of my goal, to build some of the more regional viewership and fans and stuff. So toughest moment of the season, I would say, was the very first loss, our week 2 against Sioux Falls was tough. I reached out to Surly. They did not return my phone call. Sadly, I'll need to I'll shake that tree again now. Now that we have got a full season under our belts and things. And at that time, I think we had like 12 followers on our Twitter. They're not going to pay attention to that. But now we're at 156. Hey, if you're not following the Minnesota Legend, come check us out.
Toughest moment of the season for me was our Carolina loss, because we knew after that point it was going to be an uphill to even make playoffs, because we thought Carolina was going to be one of those games where we get the win, and then we still have to win 3 in the back half somewhere, with Baltimore and DC being 2 opponents that we didn't think we'd have a good shot against at the time. The way our team were playing and struggling, we thought they would be tough ones to get. So I think the Carolina game for me was the toughest moment of the season for me personally, because that was the thought process and idea of, oh no, we messed up the front half of the season to the point that we might not even make playoffs.
I know it's tough too. Like, we were in it and we were winning for like the first 3 quarters. That last quarter, it fell apart, and they came back and took it away from us.
It was like heartbreaking, right? It was in the last couple of seconds they scored.
Yeah, it was tough. But yeah. With great pleasure comes great pain.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you enjoy it.
Who are our rivals? Axel, go ahead. You can sound off on the.
So sure.
Legend Killers.
Yeah. So Indianapolis is our interdivisional rival. So Indianapolis Ramblers, we do like our whole hashtag check engine kind of thing. We've got special apparel for to go against them. They've got special apparel, the Legend Killers, against us. So that's our interdivisional rival. I think in general, I have a history with Sioux Falls, past team. So I think, and they're in our division. And so they are, I'd say tied with them as our number 2 rival. And then Daniel's ex Tulsa is tied for number 2 rivals as well. So our division rivals, Indianapolis first, but then, it's anybody else in our division, so get out of our way.
We like to have fun with people all throughout the season, but the Indy's the one that we continually do all week long.
Yeah, that's our. I'll be working on this month some Monsters versus Machines rivalry gear to get out there in our stores as well, so you can represent.
And that's the fun, right? Because we want another rivalry that's not just Vice Wars every season. We want something that can compare to it. So that's what this is about.
Yeah, and it's like that whole week leading up to it. We're like, oh, Monday morning, on the week that leads up to our game, we're turning it on. We are going, completely at Indianapolis. They're coming completely at us. In all honesty, I designed their Legend Killer shirt and apparel for Chad, because we want this to be the best rivalry. So we're putting it in on both sides to make sure that we get this, we have fun with it. So yeah. Yes, Coco, definitely Carolina and their 50 different variations. Oh, is it Trip Opens? No, it's Trey Wright, or it's Empty Bunch or something like that, or just Straight Open or something. Yeah.
Most improved player, or I should say unexpected stud this season. Do you have anyone, Axel, in mind?
On our team, do you think?
We could be whatever. No, keep going with the questions. This is chill. We're after dark.
Yeah, this is where appreciate the questions. So most improved players, or should I say unexpected stud? I'd say that, on Minnesota, I think Juan Mississippi was one of the most unexpected studs with all how he's been able to get into the backfield to stop those running plays and those TFLs or um, that's just been pretty huge. Um, that to me was one of the unexpected things. We knew, Adam Banks, third down possession type receiver. So we knew coming from Louisiana, he has a history of that. So he balled out there again. Coming in clutch. Sadly, I think it was it twice that Jay Taylor got injured. I know it was the first game against Canton. He was like out there for a quarter and then got injured. And couldn't play.
He got injured against the DC in the playoffs.
Okay. So yeah, I think Rick Evans, I think has most improved from where we started to where he is at now. I think I'm as far he's committed to Minnesota for season 20, but I could totally imagine him stepping into a starting role even at this point. So for him to say, yeah, I believe in what you guys are doing, I'm excited that he's willing to return and give another shot even at that nickelback position. So that's exciting to see his dedication to that and the team and things. But I feel like he's at that point when you started starting Daniel, that he's not that far behind you in his progression and his traits and things. And give him next year, he'll be prime, ready to get some animations or other things, which is just going to be a game changer for him. And Tiga is similar situation. Sadly, Tiga, because being a dime back, you're not out there at that often at all. But really, progression wise or trait wise, Tiga's been, rocking it, solid progressions every single week. Not complaining. Rick, I'm excited because Rick's been joining us in the game day chats the last, handful of games too. It's just great energy in there, camaraderie and things, which is awesome to see. Least favorite offensive play call. 90 all slants has its space. I'm not a big fan of it either because it's so overused, right? But sometimes it gets what wins you the games. I would rather get a W than hold on tight and fast to to a standard of not including 90 all slants. I know that was back when I was at San Diego. That was one thing that Optimus Klein's like, no, we can't have any 90 all slants in our game plan. It's a play that works. Least favorite offensive play call.
I can tell you mine. It's any out route, period, because it's so boring to watch the game go up and down with out route 3-4 yards every time as a safety. You're never getting close to the ball. For most improved player, Buster Johnson also had a really good season for us.
Yeah, especially towards the end, just been beasting out. Same with Angela Meerkat. Both of them are ready for animations next season. They're going to be beasts out there, adding on to what Max Knight and Melo already are doing on the D line there.
It's also shocking that Buster Johnson actually took away an animation to build stats, and he played really well for us this season.
Yep. That's a huge thing, that doing stats and getting all that going. Least favorite offensive play call. Yeah, it's hard. Like, so trying to, you got to kind of have a deep ball, especially in working with Coco, trying to understand, you have to have at least 1 to 3 deep plays in there so that you can, if needed, come back from a 3rd and 15 or deeper even, or towards the end of the game when you're like, we got to go far. We need lots of yardage right away. And XA posts are the thing that works in there. It's hard we don't, on Minnesota, we don't have any offensive linemen, and so it's those plays take so long to develop that similarly with like the 50xa or 50xz deep outs, it takes so long to develop that it just becomes like scary that you're just going to get a sack, and that's happened so many times that you're like, we need this, and then that defensive line just comes too fast. So I don't mind the deep comeback. It's less about the deep comeback. There's that nice I don't know if it's an inside route or an inside post route that happens that can be hit if you've got a decent I think it's a wide receiver 2 or 3 that runs that route. Can be viable. I'm not, again, it's all dependent on the defensive scheme that gets put up that you're going against, but it's not terrible. But I don't, you don't want that. Don't be hitting that comeback route. Get that post route.
I don't want to look at deep balls anymore. We spent a whole week on it against
We
the
did.
team.
Yeah, and we're in scouting, there's some fun plays that I've played with that don't really turn out or pan out as well. Like there's the king spread 50xz deep outs that you're lined up, almost looks like a why am I blanking on it? A split spread, but instead of your fullback, you've got your tight end next to you, and we have Jason France, nice big tall receiver, max speed and agility, so he can bolt. This season he did not have breakaway bursts, so I think that did play into that. But getting him out there running that deep post out there, if you have a nice protection, that's sort of a fun, but it doesn't get called that often. Similarly with like the gun base open 50 at HF outs play, there's that nice fade out, but then there's the halfback and the fullback are both so far out that they end up on the sidelines, and you're throwing that ball out of bounds almost every time if you're not hitting that fade out there. But anyways, lots of play talk, but the extra run route would keep them in. Are you saying? I thought that would increase their speed to get out faster. Unless you're running 2 corners against it, because then that could break it up. But then you're opening yourself up for some other things. I'll do that.
You put on a sim just last night for us to watch.
I did.
You've been testing.
Well, I'm testing something for doing some. I was talking with Coco about this too. Just some QB speed testing to see what how quarterback speed, if like minimum speed, 50 speed, 60 speed, 75 speed impacts the gameplay. And funny enough, I simmed 10 games and I forgot by the end of that. I'm like, darn it, I forgot to go back, and when I was changing the speed, to switch the play action style, which totally changes how our quarterback Reno pretends to hand off the ball. And so that meant that those 10 sims, that data was out. So each sim is an hour and a half. So you're thinking, 2 days worth of sims or more. But hey, Candy King, Mr. Candy. Should we give it to the bottom of the hour? That for me, that's 8 more minutes. Do you want to?
I'm cool with that, since it will be 1 a.m.
Oh gosh! Oh, I feel for you. Are you? I don't know if I've asked you this. Are you a coffee drinker? Or are you more like energy drink or soda?
So I don't drink caffeine at all. This is actually Pepsi Zero sugar. No caffeine in it either. A Pepsi Zero. I don't drink caffeine at all.
Wow. How do you function?
It's a good question. I try and substitute orange juice. It's just not the same, I'm sure, but it's what I try to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a mindset thing where you take the caffeine because you need it to keep adrenaline rush, but if you don't take it to begin with, your mind sort of adjusts
Mm-hmm.
itself when it comes to it.
That
Not to
makes
say
sense.
that mornings don't suck, because
Yeah.
mornings do suck. But I handle it the best I can. Tomorrow will suck, but we'll figure that out as it comes.
Fun little zombie there.
Yeah, that's me.
Since
That's
we got
all.
a few more minutes, any other questions? We're still here. We still got time.
Yeah, I'd be curious if anybody's tried. I know that they are. I've heard people like, I hate 50x spot too, much like 90 all slants, because they just get used over and over again, but they are successful. Is anybody like, nope, we're just not using 90 all slants, nope, we're not using 50x spot, those are two plays, take them out of your book? I don't know if, how do you feel about that? I don't know. What's the game plan San Jose needs to beat Madison? I think I mentioned, if you could take Ron Haynes out of the game, you increase some of your chances.
Put Frossel in the third wide receiver slot.
There you go. Double
They can play Iron
sided.
Man.
Yeah.
I think for San Jose, they just have to kind of do what they're doing. Spread the ball around kind of short. I think they're just going to get in trouble until throwing deep until Blanco gets his stats up a little.
So with the wide receiver 3, I think they took that out this season because there's a lot of wide receivers already in the league. They expected the expansion last season, so that's why they added the wide receiver 3s for the expansion team to get some players that way. So that's why I think we're going back to 2 wide receivers on most of the minor league stuff like that.
And that's, I think, the similar one of the half purposes of the two ways as well, is to take up some of those spots in some of those areas that don't really need any more pro players. But then it's hard, because then you're forcing players to pick positions they're not really interested in. But I could just see, I think this season is a start of where we were, Daniel, with season 2, seeing people cross over, and 3 and 4, you're seeing a lot of multi-season minor league players, where this last draft it was almost like I'd say 90% of the minor leaguers were drafted this last season because of the expansion teams. So now I'm seeing like a shift, pendulum swing back to where you'll be seeing 2 season, 3 season players in there, and you'll be starting to see some really big, really fun games, because those players, if they're not on 2-way, they're going to continue to progress into silver, into gold, much like how we were seeing 2 seasons ago Shane Kaufman out there, or last year he was a 2-way, but the season before, being a gold, not undrafted wide receiver out there, and gold in the right way kind of thing. Like, he was, traits and then animations. But
yeah, if you're in it for the long run, you're almost torn. So like for myself, I'm sitting there, I'm like, if I don't get drafted, it could be pretty damn good next year.
Yeah, I mean, we don't as pro players, we don't get to progress only during our season. So if you were to not be drafted, you would get another 10 12 weeks of progressions before the next minor league season starts, and you would be an absolute beast. So I was in the minor leagues one season. I had a couple months before that season to progress as well, and then there's people that started after me, but because they were in the minor league for just a little bit longer, they were equal to me or almost surpassed me because of that extra time that they got. So it's definitely a developmental league. Well, we have about a minute and a half, 2 minutes then until the time we'll call it a night. But yeah, we're coming up on 2.5 hours of chit chatting. So I appreciate everybody hanging out. It's been fun chatting about football and the season and minor league pros, questions, all sorts of things, ownership, teams, and stuff. I hope you get. Thanks for hanging out. I enjoy just hanging out a bit. So yeah. Any other questions? Daniel's already asleep. I think Daniel, have you? I think you've you've taken a screenshot and put it up in on your video, and you're actually.
I'm still gonna get those little fake glasses that have the eyes in it that you can just go like this and just sleep for a bit.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Daniel, for joining us and then hanging out with us. And I hope that your class goes well tomorrow morning and that you're able to get some catch up sleep maybe in the afternoon or something. Or the evening.
Yeah, it won't be too bad.
Good.
Just more work to do assignments, right?
Exactly. And Nicholas, thank you for joining us and hanging out with us for this time. No I'm glad you're feeling better, that you're able to, it's always tough when you sometimes the day is just a little like a roller coaster of feeling good, and then you're like, no, there's something's, I'm dogging now or something, or like a tension headache pops up or things. So yeah, but glad you're able to make it.
The hard part about working from home is you almost spend too much time inside, so I had to go out with my daughter and just see the sun for a little bit.
I got you. I'm here with I have a big screen. I've got my 2 computers next to me. This is where I spend all of my day. Wake up, I was here at 8:30 in the morning through whatever time, and then making graphics for the show, and I've been sitting here now until it's 10:30. But yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel that as well. I think tomorrow I'm going to spend some time with a few friends to get outside.
That sounds good. Do you have basketball starting up? I know you had mentioned a little bit.
Yeah, so I was supposed to have basketball last Thursday. I had that math midterm.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to that game. Our next game is Friday. I'll be able to go to that one, thank you.
Cool.
So yeah,
cool.
Hopefully all that weight I dropped will help my poor back and my body as this old man plays with people that just came out of high school.
Yeah. Make sure you stretch or do some crunches to engage your core or things like that beforehand.
Oh, it will be a fun time, I'm sure. Ty, for your question, I'm not sure if people ever figured out who ran in the no count. I know they still are doing stuff, but it's not as big as they were before. I don't actually know who's running it.
I feel like I had some guesses, but I feel like they've been demystified or whatever. I honestly have no idea. They seem to be in the know in some way. So they might have access to something, but I have no clue. Do you have any thoughts? DM us. Anyways, thanks those joining us for this After Dark session. Thanks for I'll go finish my little bit of beer left. Yeah, that if you got any questions, feel free to hit us up. Thanks for hanging out and enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone.
Have a good one, guys. Always DM us if you need a question or need something answered. So we're always here.
Absolutely.